With everything going on in the world of Tekken, it's easy to forget what the title actually refers to. The King of Iron Fist Tournament. The competition that promised an incredible amount of money to whoever can make it to the end and defeat the man who organized it all, Heihachi Mishima. Naturally, this premise attracted the strongest warriors from all over the world. However, the Tekken narrative never cared about the actual placements, and the tournament quickly lost relevance with each passing title. And yet, the curiosity about power rankings still remains. And that's why in this video, we want to comb through the lore and figure out who are the strongest characters in Tekken canon. I'm your host Arya from That Blasted Salami. Let's get into this. To kick things off, we got the two best assassins in the world, Nina and Anna Williams. The two sisters were trained to be the ultimate killing machines since they were just kids, and as adults, their never-ending rivalry continues to push both of them into honing their skills. While we don't often see them facing off against other strong characters in the main story, there are many things that suggest Nina and Anna being stronger than most fighters out there. For example, both of the Williams sisters were at some point involved as bodyguards or assistants to Heihachi, Jin, and Kazuya, some of the strongest warriors in the world of Tekken. A position that will require absolute trust in their abilities and acknowledgement of their skills. And if you want to delve into a more messed up part of the Tekken lore, you'll find that Nina's ovum, and by extension her DNA, was used in Heihachi's plan to create super soldiers, which resulted in Steve Fox, the undisputed strongest boxer in the world. As we go further up the power scale, the Tekken characters start looking increasingly superhuman, with Feng Wei being just a few steps away from a Fist of the North Star character. Strength and power are the focal points of Feng's entire storyline. He's a martial artist who doesn't just want to be strong, he wants to be stronger than anyone else, and to achieve that, he needs to seek out and crush the masters of every other fighting style. Even though the main storyline doesn't really involve Feng and we don't see him do any dojo storming, he's consistently shown to be powerful and intimidating within the in-game cinematics, even though how canon they are is always up for debate. With that said, it's safe to assume that Feng is one of the toughest fighters in Tekken's roster. And now we're moving on to Beyond Human Limits, so we fittingly have a character who's barely human, and in more ways than one. Bryan Fury met his death in a Hong Kong shootout while serving as an international police officer. But that wasn't the end of Bryan, as for some mysterious reasons, his body was taken to Dr. Abel's laboratory, where he was revived and enhanced with cybernetics, giving him some unimaginable power, but also turning him into a certified psychopath. Much like with Feng, Bryan's involvement in the main storyline is pretty much non-existent, but it's hard to argue about the strength of an unhinged cyborg who's seen ripping off a tank's turret and flinging steel beams around as if he's playing darts. Become DashFight supporter on Patreon. Get early access to DashFight guides. Click the link in the description. While Lars doesn't boast the brute strength of Bryan, he more than makes up for it with his technique and the inherent power of the Mishima bloodline. Much like the others, he's able to augment his attacks by channeling ki and converting it to electricity, which can lead to devastating strikes. In spite of being a relatively new character, as protagonist of the Tekken 6 story mode, Lars has managed to showcase quite a few examples of his power, such as going head-to-head against Kazuya, managing to beat up Jin in his human form, and even defeating Azazel, forcing it to feign death to recoup and power up. With his continued involvement in the Mishima saga, Lars can only get more powerful as he continues to challenge the strongest fighters in the Tekken universe. When it comes to regular humans in Tekken, Paul is a unique anomaly. He's not a part of some special bloodline, doesn't have anything to do with the Devil Gene, and he's otherwise not imbued with any otherworldly powers. And yet, he's easily one of the absolute strongest in the universe, a fact he's more than eager to prove with his gameplay. Story-wise though, he's come closer to winning the titular King of Iron Fist tournament than any other non-Mishima character. Not only that, but he achieved this while fighting against Ancient Ogre, the god of fighting who previously absorbed the power and knowledge of many strong martial artists. Paul managed to defeat the beast, but unfortunately left too soon, not knowing about the true ogre form. Who knows, perhaps if he'd stayed just a bit longer, he'd be the one to defeat the demon instead of Jin Kazama. The first Mishima on our list so far is Heihachi. According to Akuma, despite his old age, Heihachi is actually at his strongest when we see him in the Tekken 7 storyline. And going by the feats of strength and sheer endurance that Heihachi displays, that's not hard to believe. Even though Heihachi seemingly lost or came to a draw in his fight against Akuma, Heihachi managed to put up significant resistance, and even survived the wrath of the raging demon attack, all in spite of not having a drop of devil gene in his blood. Meanwhile, a similar fight between Akuma and Kazuya forced the latter to transform as a last resort. Throughout the series, Heihachi is usually seen as manipulative, letting other people do the dirty work, like he did in the case of True Ogre. However, Tekken 7 showed us that, despite being older and more human than others, Heihachi is as tough as it gets. Speaking of True Ogre, the Tekken team had some big shoes to fill after having Devil Kazuya as the final boss of Tekken 2, and oh boy did they. While its original form as the Ancient Ogre is already plenty strong and intimidating, True Ogre takes it up a notch, turning into a truly monstrous, manticore-like beast with demonic wings, a snake arm, and an ability to breathe fire akin to a dragon. If it weren't for Jin stepping up to the challenge, it's hard to tell what could have happened. However, while not canon, the ending cinematics suggest that letting Ogre roam free would have led to end-of-the-world scenarios, with the beast also growing to massive proportions and even towering over buildings. As the founder of Mishima-style karate, Jinpachi devoted a large portion of his life to mastering the martial arts. With the man himself also being a bit of a giant, it's safe to say he was probably a walking tank, which makes it even more surprising that Heihachi managed to overthrow him and lock Jinpachi in chains. Unfortunately, we don't get to see Jinpachi in action before his untimely death, but it shouldn't be much of a problem, as it's the possessed version of him that's undoubtedly the strongest. So strong, in fact, that Jinpachi had to set up the King of Iron Fist tournament in hopes that someone would be strong enough to defeat him before the evil spirit could grow too powerful. And wouldn't you know it, Jin had to step up and save the day once again. Continuing the string of boss characters, we have Azazel. In another case of raising the stakes, the boss of Tekken 6 was presented as a threat beyond anything we'd seen before. A godlike figure that used to rule the world, but was at some point sealed away, with guardians set up to protect the tomb and prevent the return of this monster. However, by manipulating Jin into stoking the flames of conflict, the beast awakened. As we mentioned before, Lars managed to seemingly defeat it at its weakest point, but Azazel does not go down easily. In the limited time it got to rest, the creature already gained more power and would have continued to do so if not for Jin, again, putting an end to yet another demon. Since only those who carry the devil gene could truly defeat it, it makes ranking Azazel's power rather easy. And it also leaves us with only 2 other characters that could stand above it, and you probably know who they are. Finally, we get to what is arguably the single most important element of Tekken lore, the Devil Gene. While Kazuya is a formidable fighter in his own right, it's the Devil Gene that puts him so far above everyone else. Kazuya in his Devil mode even served as the first really special boss character in the series. In the Devil form, Kazuya gains overwhelming power, from greater agility, endurance, and strength to flying around and shooting lasers. Between the story mode and boss battles of Tekken 7, we got plenty of opportunities to see him wreak havoc. And with the inevitable confrontation against Jin in Tekken 8, The best, or the worst, is surely yet to come. No surprises here, our finalist and the strongest character in Tekken is, rather predictably, the protagonist. Jin Kazama's record is beyond outstanding, defeating True Ogre, putting an end to the possessed Jinpachi, crushing the resurrected Azazel, and at one point even managing to defeat both Kazuya and Heihachi back-to-back. What's even more impressive is that much of this was accomplished through Jin's own power and training, without the help of his Devil Gene. While he tries to resist it as hard as he can, the Tekken 8 trailer shows that he's able to conjure a part of the Devil's power without losing control. Thanks to Claudio, we also have a reason to believe that if he ever completes the transformation, or is otherwise able to reign in the Devil Gene's power, Jin will be even stronger than Devil Kazuya. And as Zafina predicted, the confrontation between the two strongest fighters in the Tekken universe might lead to a calamity of an unprecedented scale. And that's our list of the strongest characters in Tekken lore. But before we end, we'd like to give Akuma an honorable mention. As a guest who probably won't make a return, it's hard to count him amongst the Tekken characters, but he's now a part of the canon, and easily one of the strongest fighters out there. We probably won't ever hear about how his battle against Devil Kazuya ended, but just being able to match the Devil in a duel and fight him to a draw is no small feat. With that said, tell us how you feel about this list in the comments. Who should be lowered? Who should be higher? Maybe there's someone we missed. We're always happy to hear more input from Tekken's dedicated fanbase. And that's that. Until next time, this has been Arya from TBS wishing you an excellent day.